Let's talk about your personal security. You just mentioned it a moment ago. The pressure is enormous. It's huge. The danger comes from everywhere. Mr. President, just in 2025, there have been several coup attempts that were foiled. Mr. President, do you ever feel afraid?
Thank you. I think that's the only strength I have. I'm not afraid. Because I trust all of you, that's the first thing. You have to trust the people, because it's the people who entrusted us with this mission. And I trust the people that they will understand. And that's why we don't hesitate to stand before the people, to explain the situation to them and tell them what's going on. And that helps maintain a very good relationship. That's the first thing. The second thing, as I said, is that there was a mindset that needed to be developed within our own forces. That's very important. Right now, that mindset is there and people understand why they're fighting. If you look back a few years, many officers in the field didn't know why they were fighting. But if we know why we're fighting, who we're up against, and why there's this pressure, people understand better. And that's why we immediately created the Institute, the higher military school, so that we could train our own soldiers and instill in them what we want. Remember one thing, if you let your forces be trained by other powers, they put into their heads whatever they want. They indoctrinate them as they please, and it's easier to manipulate them. Here in Burkina, right now, that's actually what bothers many imperialist powers. They can't manage to infiltrate our army. All these units that have been created, all these men who are here, no one came from elsewhere to train them. We are built on our field experience and we trained them ourselves. I personally took part in training some of these forces at the very beginning. So that's already a second strength. And the other strength is that if you have a mission, a goal for your country, you must not be afraid. If you are afraid, you hesitate. If you hesitate, you compromise. And once compromise sets in, you're done for.
Traoré spoke of Africa's fallen giants, Nkrumah, Sankara, Gaddafi, taken by Western plots. With Burkina's gold mines back in African hands and French troops gone, he's their next target. How does he survive their schemes? Let's listen to what Captain said.
Earlier, you listed a number of factors that make you feel reassured. I insist because history matters too. It's history that guides us. These imperialist forces, they are real. In 1961, they took out Patrice Lumumba in the DRC. In 1972, they took out Kwame Nkrumah in a different way. And then in 1987, they got rid of Thomas Sankara, always with internal enemies and sometimes with the complicity of certain neighbors. You know what they say, Mr. President? The first duty of a revolutionary is to stay alive in order to continue the struggle. Mr. President, can you please reassure all of these wonderful people, all of these dedicated men and women who are gathered here and elsewhere, who are truly beginning to hope that you will indeed stay alive and continue your important work?
They always manipulate from within. We are very well aware of that. And also, it is our duty to take part in our own security. It's not about saying today that I'm the head of state and I just entrust security to other people. No, everyone takes part. I myself take part. That's why I say it's not just a matter for those who are close to me, it's a matter for the whole people. And security is not just a matter of detained men or whatever else you can imagine. It's a whole system. It's also about behaviors, ways of living. We have to avoid many things, mistakes that may have been made in the past. We have read a lot about everything that imperialism has destroyed, and we have learned many lessons. That's why we say we won't let things repeat themselves. We will anticipate, even if people interpret it however they want, we will anticipate. But that's because we have understood the message, the hope that exists. We will do everything to always stay ahead of imperialism's actions.
Surrounded by countries like Benin and Senegal, who host US and French bases, Traoré sees a trap around Africa's wealth. How do we stop this?
Mr.
Let's
President,
hear what Captain Traoré had to say.
That I feel that the AES countries are being encircled. When I look a bit at Côte d'Ivoire, there is a military camp in Odiene near Mali and Burkina. Senegal is setting up units at the border with Mali, not to mention Benin, which also borders Burkina Faso and Niger. Mr. President, do you share this point of view? Do you see things this way?
I think that when you decide to make a revolution, you have to be prepared for this adversity. It's a logic that surrounds us. It's a logic that tries to bring us down. It's logical. As I say, it's a battle. They are fighting for their interests. And it's up to us, if we've decided to make the revolution, to do everything possible so that this encirclement is defeated. You see, in Africa, we're used to not having a strong army to begin with. There is no state if there isn't a strong army. But well, that was the system. As I once said to the elders, they came to flatter us. No, you shouldn't arm yourselves. Even recently, I think there was an interview where an American general said it again, that our countries don't need to be militarized. That's their view. We're like children. They're the ones who have to come, sit down, and provide security for us. And many countries are in this situation. They don't build an army. And when the situation arises, it's chaos. We, on the other hand, are building a strong army. That's why I said we fight in Burkina Faso and we train in Burkina Faso. That's very important. What was it like before? Every time, foreign forces, everyone would come to train your soldiers. They treated you as less than nothing. Today, many forces, foreigners, are now seeking to come and train with us. You wouldn't believe it. The world's greatest powers want to come and train with us, with our soldiers. But it's not just about training. They want to learn how we do things, how we operate, who trains us. But today, no one knows how the commandos are trained, how we train them, how we equip them. Why do we think that it's others who should come and train us? They haven't created anything. They just thought about it. We have brains too. So we need a powerful army to face adversity. They will keep surrounding us because there will always be leaders in Africa like that who will allow it. They have their hands tied. They always betray. They will always allow the imperialists to come to their countries to attack their own brothers. If you accept the revolution, you have to go forward with this concept. That's how it will be. So there's nothing we can do about it. We deal with it, but it's up to us to prepare ourselves so that the encirclement is nullified, so they can never achieve their goal. That's all. So we deal with it.
Very recently, ECOWAS held a forum of chiefs of defense staff of the Friends of Africa. Mali and Burkina Faso were not there, nor was Niger. We sense a lack of solidarity. You who are at the top of the state, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's not a lack of solidarity. Keep in mind that it's a confederation, not a federation. In some respects, we do a lot of things together, at least in tandem, but in the Charter, it is stated that countries can decide on their own relationships and what they can do. We can't tell a country not to collaborate with another country. No, we're not at that stage yet. We are in the process of consolidating the Confederation in many areas, including development, defense, and diplomacy. And afterwards, we will move on to the Confederation. These are steps. So Niger can take part in meetings. The Confederation is not closed off. We are open. We interact with everyone. We are very Pan-Africanist. We are truly open to integration, to everything there is, but with principles.
Turning to the media. And when Captain Traoré was asked about this, Traoré delivered a scorching rebuke to journalists who serve as imperialist megaphones.
But the question I want to ask, forgive me, is not about defense or security, but about your relationship with us, the media. Mr. President, do you have a particular problem with the media, with us, the journalists? I say this because it feels like there has been a misunderstanding. I'm talking about the national media, not the international media, some of which have ended up in the trash for some time now. That's a fact. There is no national media. It seems like there was a misunderstanding at the beginning and that there's still a fog hanging over things. How do you analyze the situation, Mr. President?
You know I'm not a hypocrite. There was a misunderstanding, there was a fog at the beginning. But today I must say that I really commend the media for their professional work. We must avoid following along the work of imperialism. Of course, many among you were trained by them. That's it, you went to the white man's school, as we like to say. They're the ones who trained you in journalism. So I don't often blame you when people try to behave like them. But I speak so that people become aware that this is about our homeland. Look, this morning, for example, read the headlines in the newspapers in France. They might tell you that there was a mobilization to put pressure on the Prime Minister. They won't tell you that there was a march against the government or anything like that. But if it were in Burkina, you would say there was a march against the government. Do you understand? The French used to call us, and still call us, putiche, junta, and so on. That's French. But the journalists also called us putish, junta, and so on. Why? Why follow? Following blindly, that's still slavery. I want us to move away from that. Every state must fight for its own interests. Journalists fight for their own interests. So why shouldn't we fight for our interests in Africa? So that's it. It's not just the journalists. I also blame some intellectuals who appear on TV panels in Africa. When they speak up, you start asking questions. But is he African? Well, genetically, he's not from here. He's not with us. That's a reality, a setback. Yes. We need to decolonize our mindsets and our ways of doing things. Everyone must fight for their homeland. You might have information that is perhaps true and accurate, but you choose not to release it because it could harm national defense, security, cohesion, and so on. That is a sovereign decision because you want to protect your country. But we don't say that as soon as there is information, it must be released. No, that's not how it works. And very often journalists, as we like to say, aren't interested in trains that arrive on time. It's the train that's late that gets their attention.
You know that, Mr. President, so you understand us from time to time.
Yes, but that should be avoided. Now, I want you to take interest in trains arriving on time. All right?
I'd like to leave you with a phrase that's the motto of a great European club. It's this one. Our jersey may be stained with blood, mud, and sweat, but never with shame. That's all I wish for you, Mr.
When Captain Traoré was asked about what fuels the flames of the popular progressive movement, a movement launched by Traoré to help Burkina Faso grow, this is what Captain Traoré said.
It must be said that we took over the country with a certain situation on the security front, but also with a different situation on the economic and political fronts. There were a lot of reforms to be made, so many in fact, that we couldn't list them all at once. So we had an ideology. We began to implement the revolution up until last April, when we officially proclaimed it. And when we talk about a revolution, it means revolutionizing every aspect of our lives. Because we can't keep doing the same things as before and expect different results. If we were just going to continue as before, I think it would have been better to let the politicians carry on with their own ways. But we wanted to break away. And breaking away requires a lot of commitment. Thank God the people understood. Everyone realized that a break was necessary. Whether it's in terms of behavior, practices, governance, the economy, trade, and everything that goes along with it. And every day, I can tell you, we keep discovering new things. Because the system that was in place, I like to use a metaphor and say it was like a big knot that we found. You untie one and another appears. When you untie one, another one shows up. So there were many problems in our society that we are currently working to solve. And thank God I can say that many things have been initiated, and overall, for me at least, the results are satisfying, even though I think we can still make more effort. And if you wish, you can ask me questions about each area, because there are many things that have been started.
The Traoré was asked about his land reforms law. What Traoré said left journalists speechless.
You know how many conflicts have arisen over this issue of land? There are villages that have fought with machetes, families that have been divided because of the land issue. The state must take responsibility. But if you hesitate because you're afraid to declare it, fearing that some people might feel frustrated or not, that's why the revolution is welcome. At some point, a decision must be made to put an end to all this. How many real estate developers were there in Burkina in 2010? I don't think there were even 20. Suddenly, in 2015, there were more than 200. They bought up land everywhere. They're dividing it up. They sell, they resell, they've plundered the land, and it's dangerous. Currently, we have a CCAD application that we've just launched, and we're in the process of re-registering. But what's happening is terrible. Even plots in the cities, people sell and resell them to several different people because it wasn't digitized. It's a huge registry. Do you think someone can go through the records, find the parcel number, see who it belongs to, and then you go and buy it? It's just not. So, there are a lot of duplicates, and it creates conflicts. And while those politicians were doing that, they were attending conferences, events, talking about social cohesion. You can't promote social cohesion while dividing people over land. That's why we decided to take responsibility and put a stop to this massacre. And so, the land belongs to the state. And from now on, We will do everything we can to balance the situation as much as possible so that people don't feel wronged. It's the same for traditional chieftaincy. This law has been around for a long time. A very long time from what I've been told, but no one wants to act on it. But we have decided to get involved to take a closer look because as far as I'm concerned, traditional chieftaincy must be respected, must be listened to, and must be the one working for social cohesion. When they speak, when there is a conflict, a contentious situation, they must speak up to bring people together and their voice must carry weight. So there are a certain number of privileges, if I can put it that way, that we've put in place, symbols of authority we've established so that people respect them. Whether people like it or not, they are respected. And they themselves command respect. Because recently, politicians had manipulated them. Many people today regret having marched alongside the politicians. There are villages where people are divided, where people no longer respect the chiefs. But with this law, in any case, that we brought to the LTE, we tried to clarify many things so that their respect in society could be restored. And that is very important.
Then Captain Traoré was asked on how do we propel Burkina's economic surge against all odds, defying jihadist storms. Burkina's coffers swell with commendable progress in revenue, health and harvests, as IMF nods to 2025 robustness.
President, despite the security crisis and the international situation, the Burkinabe economy is doing well with a 1.5% increase in economic growth rate in 2024. We know that the improvement in the security situation has played a major role, but so have agriculture and the services sector. What is the government doing right now to allow the national economy to keep up this momentum?
All right, thank you. We can see that these are macroeconomic figures. We are aware of this and we constantly review the situation with the Minister of Finance. Efforts are being made. It's true that there are areas that have been secured which allow us to produce. And so agricultural production has increased significantly, which allows for processing at the level of the small units we have, but also for exporting the surplus of certain products. So this contributes greatly to the trade balance. There is also the issue of mining itself. So there are a number of mines that had stopped operating, if you remember. Some in 2020, others even in 2018, but they have also resumed operations. And all of these contributes to that growth. And we are continuing in this direction. And currently, if you look at the mining sector, for example, the government's approach is to exploit our gold ourselves. So there are mines that we have just taken control of, and we will continue to gradually regain control, to co-exploit with the companies that are already there. Because what was the rule? Someone comes, gets the permit, exploits it, 10% goes to the government, and the rest is for them. And by the way, we have no control over that 10%. So right now, we are really taking back control to make sure we know what is coming out of our subsoil. They also take a significant share. So all of this contributes to economic growth, especially considering the initiatives we've launched in the agricultural sector. Many other ventures have been financed, and in any case, this allows for solid growth. But for me, the most important thing is that when the Minister of Finance often brings the figures, I say, well, that's all very good, but I send someone to the market. You see, that's what we call an empamore. How much does a can of corn cost? How much does a can of millet cost? I gather the information, and if the cost has gone down, we know there's an impact on the population. That's what's most important. So we do this work constantly, and even the intelligence services are involved so that we don't just announce a macroeconomic figure showing 1.5% growth that has no impact, especially on the most vulnerable groups. So we will continue this progress, God willing.
Then a question about the African Union came, and what Captain Traoré said about this organization will shock you.
Mission, may I ask you a question regarding your relationship with another organization? What are you still doing in the African Union?
Good question. Well, I would say that our situation in the African Union is so passive that we don't even know if we're in the Union or not. We've been suspended since then. No one talks to us. It's really complete radio silence. So honestly, I don't know if I'm in the Union or not.
But shouldn't we also make a statement by taking a historic step, as was done with ECOWAS, by slamming the door on an institution that clearly doesn't serve much purpose?
I had a discussion with a diplomat from that organization, and then we experienced his name as mediator, the president of Burundi, who was even supposed to come here last week, I think. But then there was a scheduling issue with us. and we're waiting for him. We want to hear from him because we ourselves want to know why they're behaving this way. Because we don't want to make a decision without knowing their motivation. Why did they decide to exclude us? Why are they behaving like this towards us? If we know their motivation, then if we leave, we could explain to our people, this is what they said, these are the reasons. And so we decide to leave. It's the same thing as with ECOWAS. We left, but if we're asked why we left, we can explain it to you. But today, if we leave the union and we're asked, we ourselves don't even know why they suspended us. Why are they behaving like this? Sure, they said we're somewhat aware. But as of today, I thought you
can also leave because you feel that it's an organization working against Africa's interests. I don't think the African Union is taking a revolutionary stance like the one you're leading.
No. Out of respect for certain people, that's why, as long as the mediator who was appointed, who has already sent his envoy to make contact with us, we are waiting for him. It's truly out of respect for this president. We are waiting for him. Let him come and address the dispute. Let him tell us what is going on. And we will share with him the conclusions of our discussion.
Mr. President, let's move on to the Black Sea in Russia. So, the science and art of these instruments. You have a scientific background. So, on that day in Moscow, you asked the Kremlin leader to teach us how to fish instead of just giving us fish, meaning technology transfer. I think today it's true. Everyone agrees that this kind of external spoon feeding can't go on any longer. So where do we stand today regarding this technology transfer? Because you mentioned right away to our colleagues that one day we will even manufacture our own weapons. So where are we currently with this technology transfer?
I think they clearly got the message. I stated it in 2023 during the St. Petersburg summit. We were given wheat. We shouldn't have to go and ask for wheat again. We need to become self-sufficient. If we are given fish, we must learn how to fish ourselves. And I think that with the initiatives we are currently developing, we have requested during the visit that a certain number of scholarships be offered to students so they can go and learn science. They agreed. So, there are already people who have gone to specialize in certain advanced fields. If you look at the creation of the Atomic Agency, we already have students whom we sent last year who are receiving training in the atomic field, which is an advanced technology. We will continue to send more every year. So with the initiatives we're developing, we've asked the UCI to offer a number of scholarships to students so they can go and learn science. They agreed. So there are already people who have gone into certain specialized fields. If you look at the creation of the Atomic Agency, we've already sent students since last year who are being trained in the atomic field, which is an advanced technology. We will continue to send more every year. So there are several other fields where we have requested training. It's not just Russia. We've also requested special training from China and sent students there. We're going there as well. Basically, we're tapping into every possible technology we can develop to send students for training.
So, geopolitically, well, the Captain President, he's going to betray me today. He put the Burkina into orbit like back in the days of 154. How does that make you feel today? A country like Burkina, a little captain. What does it open up for you politically today to be at the pinnacle?
Do you think
still keep your head on your shoulders?
On the contrary, keeping your head on your shoulders is a burden. To see that it's a global mission that has been entrusted to us. Seeing that everyone is interested in Burkina, I wouldn't call it pressure, but it is a burden and a responsibility. And we have to take it on with all the necessary focus. We don't have the right to fail. Whether we like it or not, we are going to follow the will of the people because they are the ones who made this possible. So as we've seen, Burkina is really in orbit, as you say. And we are working to keep Burkina in this position. To be the country of upright people, to be a model nation, to be the country that will move out of this underdeveloped situation. To become, in a few years, a highly developed country, to achieve a miracle, because that's what people are aspiring to. And also to be able to contribute our voice and everything we have for the happiness of the world, if I may say so.
Since you became head of state, you have traveled very little. The only country in Africa you have visited is probably Russia, if I'm not mistaken. And we've seen your African counterparts in the United States with a sort of class photo with President Trump. And I'll share a comment from a friend of mine who said to me, Captain Traoré would never have accepted that. Is that true?
Well, listen, I travel very little, as you mentioned. And I went to Russia twice for very specific purposes. And it's rare that I go to other partners and only for very specific objectives. Other than that, I don't plan to travel around the world like others do. Because for me, you have to stay focused and work for your country. President Trump himself said America first. It's America first. He works for the interests of Americans. And so I am working for the interests of the Burkinabe people. If I have no interest there, what would I go there for?
Now, one of the major geopolitical issues today is, of course, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We see more and more countries taking a stand. We have seen Western European countries, to name them, say that they are going to recognize, and this is a strong signal, the Palestinian state. But as usual, Africa is almost silent. It is in a wait-and-see position. From Burkina, can you give a position that helps us understand a bit what Africa thinks about what we fear is happening today in the Gaza Strip?
I can give you a position that shows what Africa thinks.
Some Africans or some African people.
Because many African leaders have a different way of seeing things. It's Africa's misfortune, if I may say so, we are not united. We don't see things the same way. Some are afraid, some are hesitant, some are there for the interests of other people. The West, there are people who grew up over there, did everything over there, and then they come and are made heads of state in Africa. So they're the ones who control all of that. And so Africa can't have its own opinion. But I know that deep down, no one would want to see what's happening over there happen in their own country. But unfortunately, if the African continent is facing such a situation, in Congo, what are we even doing for Congo?
With Democratic Republic of Congo,
how many millions of deaths has it been, and for how many years? We ourselves are at war. Have you seen any African countries even raise their voices for Burkina over the past 10 years? It's rare. It's rare. So Africans have this problem. On the other hand, when someone sees a problem in Europe, everyone is united. People quickly manage to find solutions. The United States is the same. But Africa has this problem. You see, we've been fighting for 10 years. You haven't heard anyone raise the voice of Burkina Faso at international institutions or anything like that, nor Mali, nor Niger. Our people are dying, it's not their problem. Congo is dying, it's not our problem. Last time I tried, in one of my speeches, to speak out about how many millions of deaths there have been. Suddenly, look at how they are tearing each other apart. There are already so many conflicts on our soil. We can't even make our own voices heard. So how are we going to speak up for others? So we Africans need to wake up. Can Burkina Faso
recognize the Palestinian state? Is Burkina Faso ready to recognize the Palestinian state? Why
not? It's a state. It's a state. Why wouldn't we recognize the Palestinian state? What's happening is very serious. I think the Palestinian state exists, it should exist. Otherwise this war will never end. Wherever things are divided, it will never end. While you think it's going to end, it starts up again even stronger. We're going to keep going like this. But I also think that a lot of the responsibility lies with the countries in that region, because it's their area, and people there should be able to lead the way in finding a solution to this conflict. And as for us, as we keep fighting here, the Burkinabe state, which must endure, that's what's most important. And we are fighting for our Burkinabe state.
There you have it, Mr. President.